Hello, my name is Von Steinstra. I'm the president of the China Speakers Bureau, and William Bao Bean is one of our speakers. He focuses on innovation, mostly from Shanghai. Um, and what we see is that a lot of governments in different parts of the world, they try to set up their own Silicon Valley. They want to copy the success. Now, in China, it seems to be working. And the question for William is, William, what can governments do to actually stimulate innovation? Is it just giving them money? Is it about? We just saw that Shanghai is offering VCs money to compensate for possible losses. What can a government do?
Well, generally speaking, I think governments can best contribute to creating an innovative environment by getting out of the way. So it's a little joke, but what they can do to spark a Silicon Valley type ecosystem is to remove barriers to innovators choosing their particular city as a place to set up. I mean, you always have things like having a leading university there. But what also helps and where the government can play a role is making it a good place for a large leading corporation to set up R&D, to make it easy for people to get visas, to set up schemes where local investors who are hopefully the smart money and know what they're doing can get some matching, which seems to be working in a number of markets, and at the same time, just make it a friendly place for people to start up.
So can you give an example of a city where they did that in a reasonable way?
Sure, I think probably one of the worst markets in the world to start up used to be Singapore. But they have a quite a progressive approach to government, and they do iterate and change quite rapidly, at least for governments. So over the last 10 years, 10 years ago, if the government of Singapore was in any way involved with a company, I would definitely not invest, or I wouldn't even take the meeting. Whereas now, over the last 3 or 4 years, especially, they've come a huge way. So one of their schemes, where they started, was you would get a investment from the government, and as part of that, you had to submit yourself to a weekly audit function from two professors who probably had no idea what the hell you were doing. And it's a really great way to teach people on how to prepare government reports and how to talk to professors. It has nothing to do with starting up. Now, that program has given way to a matching program where not every fund, but certain vetted funds who are putting up their own money and their LPs' money get matching from the government when they invest in startups. Now, it's not the matching in terms of the investment side; it's even better. So they get government money that they can pay back if they're successful, and the government doesn't get any equity, or if they're not so successful, it converts to equity, and since the company is worth nothing anyway, the government will then lose the money. So the when you're an investor, you're making tough decisions because you've got skin in the game, and I think the government partnering with people who have skin in the game definitely makes sense. Some of the other schemes that have come out, such as the recent Shanghai government announcement that they're looking to help offset the losses of VCs, does not make very much sense. In fact, it's probably the stupidest thing I've seen all year. The reason for this is that you're not encouraging smart money to stay in the game. You're creating a moral hazard, and you're encouraging dumb money to do crazier things. I'd say around the region, Singapore has been a pretty good example. There are quite good schemes in China, and I'd say China is probably in the top three in Asia where in terms of the leadership that the government has taken in helping form those local Silicon Valleys. Coming up the curve, Korea in the last 2 years has made an effort, and Taiwan, where we are today with MOX, the second accelerator in Taiwan, which we launched at the beginning of this year. Taiwan over the last year has really started to pick up with a new conference called MOSA, and a government-backed program called Taiwan Startup Stadium, where they're focused on helping Taiwan startups bridge to the world in partnership with global leading accelerators like MOX.
Yeah. Let's sidestep first to China, because there's a lot of talk going around about China and innovation, and the country still has poor international internet connections. It has been notoriously hard to set up any company in China. Has China been improving their act a little bit?
So in some areas, yes, it's been improving. In some areas, it's actually gotten worse. The main goal should be, has always been focused on the local market. And China has done a very good job in helping companies focus on the China market. Where they've fallen down is their ability to help their own Chinese companies go global. There are significant barriers to Chinese companies in hiring international experts, international employees. It's increasingly difficult, especially in the last 3 to 6 months, for Chinese companies to invest in and acquire offshore companies. It's also just plain hard to get renminbi into US dollars for international business activities. So they've done a very good job locally. But where they're meeting the international business world, they still have a lot of things that they could do.
Okay, and one of the things that you mentioned before is, and that goes also for Europe, where they still have some problems in getting qualified people, is making sure that people get visa to actually work in the country.
Yes, we've done a couple investments in Europe, one in Switzerland in particular, and I found it one of the most difficult places to work as an investor and an entrepreneur. There are huge sort of taxes that you see in terms of company setup fee, legal expense, not just taxes, but hidden taxes in terms of the amount of time and effort and money and expertise it takes to set up and even take in new investment. So I was talking to a startup recently, very small startup. They've got a global business, but they're operating in a country where it's not just a tax rate and the expensive cost of living. There's nothing you can really do about that. But the last investment round, 7% of the funds raised went to legal fees. And as an investor, I'm not in the business of investing in lawyers.
I think that's a very good statement, and I'm sure about Europe can improve their act still a lot. Thank you very much, William.
Yeah, thank you very